FAE, and it was just fat because I was wearing a What's Up Fish Tank People t-shirt, and people like knew who I was and were like, what's up, man? I watch your videos. So I got nothing but love for Chicago people. Thanks for being here and checking this out. Let's see here. It's 3 o'clock. I'm doing this. So I'm just going to do Planet Tank 101. I'm going to keep it real plain Jane. If somebody's got a question, bring it. And here we go. This is a 900-gallon aquarium I did at the Newport Aquarium. I had a lot of fun with that. That's my old school 220. And this right here is the tank that started it for me. This tank absolutely, it just changed my game when I was doing Planet Tanks. I had tried them before. That's an actual photo, like a 07, like when you guys use the cameras and everything. So, and this was my first dirted tank. And what I learned, everybody at the pet store, I was like, I'm going to use dirt and I'm going to put it in an aquarium. And they all thought I was completely on another planet and like I needed to go away. They were like, what are you doing? You're going to put dirt in your tank, like you're going to screw it up. And I was like, all right, that's cool. Yeah, all right, whatever. And then like every week I brought them in clippings and was like, here, you want some more plants? I need some credit. Here, you want some more plants? I need some credit. Because I was bringing them ridiculous amounts of Ludwigia, the plants in the top there. And so they came over and they were like, oh, wow. They're like, every square inch of your tank. And I'm like, yeah. And this is where I learned how to feed plants. And it really changed my game. This is a 125-gallon aquarium. The lighting on this is important. We're going to talk about lighting. The lighting on this was old school fluorescent crappy bulbs, right? Like what you have like in like an old like basement of a gymnasium, like just crappy lights. But they were the right spectrum. I'm going to talk about that. And I had a lot of them. This has a carpet of dwarf sage, very easy plants. This is jungle val in the back there, Amazon sorts, heavy root feeder. Eat at their roots. I'm going to talk more about that too. Angelfish. One of these angelfish had the most miserable life ever because there was 2 breeding pairs on either side, and it would just get beat like back and forth across its tank. So I don't know if you guys ever had angels and how they act, but it wasn't right. So this is what started it for me. I want to talk about tank sizes. You want to get your tanks, the bigger the tank, the better it is, right? The easier it is to do. The exception of that is when a tank is too deep, then you can't get the light all the way to the bottom of it. What can you afford? I had a 220-gallon aquarium. The guy was like, hey, man, I got something to show you in the back. I'm like, all right, what is it? I'm thinking he's got like a fish or like, some plant or whatever. It's a 220-gallon aquarium. It's 30-inch deep tank. You guys might have seen it in some videos. And like I could barely get to the bottom of it. And what I realized with that $500 220-gallon aquarium was that I had to light it. And lights were like $300-400 on top of everything I was doing. So understand that you got to spend some money on lights, and you got to have all the other stuff that goes with it with your tank sizes. What do you have room for, and how many tanks do you have already? See this tank down on the bottom there? I got 3 tanks that look pretty solid in my old greenhouse. That other one always looked like crap. So don't let your A tank, don't like get spread too thin with too many tanks. Like, keep your one. It's awesome. Don't spread yourself out and have like a bunch of crappy ones, or I don't know. I like to kind of pull it in sometimes on the multi-tank-itis that gets us. Lighting. This is my old greenhouse in my backyard. And this is when I learned real hardcore that lighting mattered. And so I, everything was just all over the place, but it didn't matter because I was using the sun. And like lighting, just anything I could do would grow well. So I went to buy, when this worked and I kind of grew out of my backyard, and Andrew over here on the camera used to edit videos in my family room, like I realized I needed a bigger greenhouse. And there's a fun story with that. If anybody wants to hear it, I can give you a version of it. I don't know if anybody knows about that. You want to hear that version of it? It's not exactly to do with tanks, but it's a good story, happy ending. Anybody know about that story? Okay, I'll talk about that. So I was like, I'm going to get a bigger greenhouse. Check out this bad boy. This is a 180-foot greenhouse out in town. I'm like, I need that. Guess how many people are selling greenhouses? Not a lot. Guess what the market is for greenhouses? It's none. So when you want to go buy a greenhouse, you can just give them whatever you think is right. So this guy was asking $150,000 for this, and I was like, I'll give you 75. And he's like, I'm not interested. I'm like, all right, cool. I waited 6 months, sat on my tail. I'll give you 80. He goes, sold. So I'm gonna get this thing. Has anybody heard this story before? Raise your hand if you know this. Oh, even better. All right, cool. A guy goes 80 grand. Some of you have. A guy goes 80 grand. I'm like, awesome. This is great. And so I'm like, cool. I'm real stoked. I'm inside of it. Like, I'm walking around. 180 feet, folks, is like from here to the other wall. All right. This is like I'm going from a 12 by 24, like the size of this stage, to the other wall. So I'm super jacked, right? And I go, and I got to get what's called a variance. So I got to go in front of the city, and the lady in the city was like, you better be careful. You better be ready. So I'm standing in front of this greenhouse one day, and I'm like screwing around in the front, and I walk down, I walk across the street, and I'm like this, and I'm like, hey, my name is Dustin. Like, I'm gonna buy this greenhouse across the way from you, and I just wanted to introduce myself. And so I go with the lady across the street, and she goes, I'm being like the nicest guy I can ever possibly be, right? Because this is gonna be my neighbor. She goes, let me tell you about that greenhouse. I'll be right back. She goes inside of her house. She grabs a book this thick, and she goes, here's what's up with this greenhouse. And I was like, well, that went really well. And so then I'm like tripping. I'm like, all right, so this lady like lives across the street from me. It's not like, hey, you're gonna be my neighbor. She's pissed. Like, okay. So I have to go in front of the city. I go in front of the city to get a variance. I got a suit and tie wrap cleaner than a bar of soap. I go in there, and I'm like, yo, my name is Dustin. I got this whole YouTube thing going. Andrew's second day on the job, by the way. It's a public hearing. He's walking in with me. And I go in there. 11 people show up to this. 11 people show up. I worked on this for a year. I got it for 80 grand, all right? 11 people show up for this, and they vote, right? 11 people are like, they spoke for 2 hours about why I shouldn't have this. This is not going well, right? Like, I'm like, oh, what happened? They go to vote. They vote in my neighbor was on the thing, so he had to excuse himself. So they vote in a 3-3 tie. Tie means I don't get the variance. Tie means I don't get this. But guess what? You think I wanted it after that lady was like throwing the book at me, literally? So this is me. This is me not crying because I didn't get the greenhouse. Yes, it is. I was very upset. This is me crying because your lights suck. But no, I didn't get it. And I bawled like a little girl on camera, and everybody resonated with it. And it was like something that I'm sharing personally, because if anybody's going through some hard stuff, keep freaking going. If you're going through hell, keep going, all right? Because this is me sad talking about it. And this is one happy SOB, because once I didn't get that greenhouse, I got this one. And that's one happy dude right there in the middle. And that is my first of now 1, 2, 3 greenhouses in Kentucky. And if you look closely, there's an ecstatically happy dude in there. And I got it built exactly what I wanted. And it goes back to lighting, okay? The roof of that opens into 10 feet, full sun's really fat, have a lot of good fun in it. But it's all about lighting, okay? Mother Nature, like, you need to have good lights. We have a greenhouse, not a warehouse. We grow plants. This is it now. So that's the first half you saw, and the other half, and then we got another half behind you can barely see there. And we're having a lot of fun. There's the sun coming up. Yeah, I sprinted out of bed to get that shot. I like that one. And it's really cool inside, too, when you see that, by the way. Like, you walk in, you're like, oh, my God. So light matters. We grow plants in basins like this, then this. And it's all about, but it's really fun to walk in and see that in the morning, that too. But it's all about what would Mother Nature do. So if you're like thinking to yourself, like, I can't grow plants, or I'm having a hard time, you got to just like take a step back and look at what Mother Nature would do and how it would be going, right? So, you want good lights. And lighting your aquarium, how much light, how deep is your tank, and then what are you trying to grow? So how much light? You want as much light as you can freaking give your plants. I'd rather have you have way more light than not enough and your plants suffer. Because think about it. What will Mother Nature do? You're outside, right? Like, it's all, everything, full spectrum. How deep is your tank? If you got Anybody got a 90-gallon tank? Anybody got a deep one? 90 gallons, 90 gallons, what's up? 90 gallons, yeah. That's tough. That's deep. Something called the inverse squared law. For every measure, this is important for the short tanks as well. For every unit of measure you go down from a light source, you exponentially lose light. Good way of looking at it is, look at the way that PowerPoint slides off of there. See how the light gets wider and hits this? So like in a shallow tank, you're getting way more light at the bottom, but in a deeper tank, it's less and less and less and less and less. So keep that in mind with what you're trying to grow. You might be able to grow a plant like crazy in a 10-gallon tank, but in like a 90-gallon tank, it's a lot deeper, a lot harder to do, okay? What are you trying to grow? You can grow Java fern in your toilet. You can grow Anubias anywhere, right? Like, it doesn't matter. You're trying to grow some crazy carpeting. Like, I always give the example of Mother Nature. What will Mother Nature do? You guys know dwarf baby tears? Anybody keeping dwarf baby tears? None of you, exactly. It's called Hemianthus cuba. Guess where you got to imitate? Cuba, right? Like, you got to have, like, full equator sun. It's hard. It's not easy to do. You do get what you pay for with lighting, but at the same time, ghetto is good. Like, this was an old school fluorescent strip and a happy dude. I like metal halides. And I'm going to get real scientific and technical. Metal halides that are like, oh, those are too expensive to run or everything. Metal halides give you hits in the ultraviolet and the infrared, and your plants will grow like crazy. Because the inside of the metal alloys inside of there heat up in an argon gas and give you everything, which is why when you're underneath the metal halide, you feel like you're at the beach. We use metal halides to grow plants in the winter. LEDs, however, are a light-emitting diode, and those have come a long way, and I'm going to talk about more of those in a second. This is the most important lighting thing you'll ever see. This is a spectral graph. This is the spectral composition. Okay? Goes like this. Your light that comes off the sun is visible spectrum, but then you've got on the either end, you've got ultraviolet and infrared. Ultraviolet, give you cancer, keep going, wait, you know, goes on like that. So, and I see a guy taking a picture. You want to take a picture of this. That is what our human eye sees. This is what plants see. It is the opposite. I'm going to say it again for the people in the back. That's what humans see. That's what plants see, okay? So if I flip up a light and I'm like, my lights are great, they're bright, and you see it, it doesn't matter because you don't see the same as a plant, all right? So this is a spectral composition. This is a measurement of photosynthetically active radiation in between the 400 nanometers and the 700 nanometers. Plants like a little bit beyond there as well. That's called the PAR value. Anybody know about PAR? What do you think about PAR? It's total garbage. Here's why. It's total garbage because PAR is a measurement between 400 and 700 nanometers, but it doesn't tell you which nanometers. So you could have a light that puts off that, and it's like 500 PAR, but plants don't care about that in the middle there, right? But if it's putting off this, it's in the same PAR. They could have. You can get PAR with a laser pointer, okay? You're not growing plants with a laser pointer. Everybody got that? It's this. It's this. You want this. You want your spectral composition to look like this. This is very important. Like, look at the side of a graph. That's what you want it to look for. That's what's coming off the light. Peaks in the blues, peaks in the reds. We do have a standard double LED. LED stands for light emitting diode. They have less heat. All LEDs have less heat, less energy consumption, more programmable options if you want rave mode. A lot of bad fixtures came out when LEDs came out. That's gotten a lot better now, but it's just like the first year a car comes out, you don't want to buy like the first one off the line. You want them to work the stuff out a little bit. So that's with the LEDs particularly. And it was a race to get in the game, and I was very, very critical of LEDs for a long time. Obviously, we've got our own, and we're super jacked about it. So, yeah, LEDs, that's our Blaster series. That's a 30-inch deep, 220, penetrating down there. But LEDs are the new thing. But, and I'll say this again, ghetto is good. If you're growing plants with like an old school fixture with like bulbs like you have around, like keep doing it, right? Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you got old school power compacts, anybody got power compacts? The big tubes? No? All right, every now and then there's somebody that raises their hand like, yeah, I got those. Like, They still work. They grew the heck out of plants. So don't just start switching it up. Something's working. Old school T5s? Anybody T5s? One. Thank you. You over there. Nobody else has T5s? Everybody got LEDs? Everybody's LEDs in here? All of you? Wow. Anybody running halides? No, none of you. Most everybody in here is running LEDs. Huh. Okay. Yeah, LEDs are, I mean, if they're running, they're good. But it's not just about lighting. How are we going to kick it? Going to kick it root down, going to break it all down. It's not a put down. I put my foot down, and then I'm breaking some love. I'll put my root down for the one person that knows that Beastie Boys song. Roots matter. Roots freaking matter. I don't even know if he's with the company. I don't even know if this is fact, but I heard this and it blew my mind. Plants absorb 400 to 400 times more nutrients through their roots than through their stems and leaves. I can eat noodles through my nose. It's a lot more efficient to go through my mouth. Plants can eat at their stems. Thank you. Somebody got that. I can't see you all. I don't know. Plants absorb the food at their roots.
All right, if you're not over at the main stage,
Oh.
from Dustin's Fish Tanks is over there giving a talk on the main stage. And then here,
I'm already talking. I'm already talking. It's already going on. You're missing it. Plants absorb 400 to 400 times more nutrients through their roots than through their stems and leaves. I'm already giving the talk. It's halfway over. You missed it. So while that's going on, we want to let you know that plants absorb the nutrients there. You'll see the pink in there. Anybody running clay in their tanks? Clay? Yeah, one. Oh, my goodness. Okay, let's get down here and teach some people some things here. Yeah, so clay. So clay has an iron binding ability. So it's called the cation exchange, and I'm not getting into that because I'm not a biology guy. But basically, all the metals and stuff like that, they pull down with the clay because clay is a negatively charged ion. So they're pulling all the food down to the roots of the plants where they eat, which is why the roots are running directly through the clay. Believe it or not, I did not put them there. They just chose to go through there. That's underneath my 220. And here's a rule for you. The bigger the roots, the bigger the stems, the bigger everything else. So you want to get the whole deal. You want the whole thing, right? So you want to focus on those big roots because that's where plants eat. And then if everything else above will look bomb, okay? Got that? Couple nods? All right. So how are we going to feed them? I use soil. Everybody just joining, thank you. I've been talking for 20 minutes. We'll stick around. The talk started at 3 o'clock. You're all late. You're all late. Hurry up. Get down in front. So I feed them dirt. I mean, what? What does Mother Nature do? You walk out in a yard. You got a good yard. You got good soil. You got great plants. The plants grow like crazy. You go to the beach. You run in the ocean. It's not full of plants because plants don't grow in sand. So I use dirt. God made dirt. Dirt don't hurt. How many things you want me to say about it? But there are other alternatives to a dirt substrate because there are downsides to it. Fluoride's good. Fluval has a good stratum. A monosoil. I'm going to stick here with that for a second. Takashi Amano? Anybody know Takashi Amano, please? All right, cool. Takashi Amano, the father of aquascaping, passed away a couple years back. He has his own Amano soil. He's the godfather, grandfather of the thing, right? So feeding at your roots must be important, whether you're doing the whole dirt thing or not. Like Amano did it, right? Like Amano had nutrients at the substrate. Amano sold, whatever, nutrient, fertilizer. I'm not a fan of root tabs, all right? I'm hungry. I just pounded some Portillo's because apparently that's what you're supposed to do when you're Chicago, right? Where else should I eat? I need recommendations. The food was bomb at the little Italian place over here. But Portillo's is good. I'm not eating vitamins to get full, okay? You want to give your plants a smorgasbord to eat at their substrate because the more they eat, the bigger they are going to grow. Now, I recommend 1 inch of dirt over 1 inch of gravel. That's the safest bet. Get any more than that, and this is because I've done it, you go like ah, man, I'm going 2 inches of dirt, and I'm going 2 inches of gravel. Well, I've done it. And what happens is you suffocate the dirt, suffocate the substrate, and you get anaerobic, non-oxygen in there. So you get anaerobic conditions, and it just smells like sulfur. Smells like rotting milk, so don't do it. If you're starting up an aquarium for the first time, use 1 inch of soil, and I'm talking like Miracle-Gro Organic Choice, and then cover it with 1 inch of gravel on top. Everybody knows about pool filter sand. It's like the ultimate like cheap substrate. Like you can like $50, 50-pound bag. Like inflation 55, whatever. But it's like, you know, 50 bucks, 50-pound or $10, 50-pound bag. The Vigro pebbles are pretty good though. You can get those at Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever. Just rinse them off. Same price point. And then if you want to do anything, obviously your existing aquarium gravel. I have a guide on this in 5 bajillion YouTube videos. Type in Dustin's Dirted Tank, and I'll get more into it because this is just light level. But do a lot of water changes. And then you want to use a darker color on top, so if anything does come up, it just kind of blends in together. Pool filter sand would be not as sexy for that because it comes up and it's dark and you got a little messy looking. But black Estes gravel is great. So that is how I feed plants. And I like to walk the walk, talk the talk. This is how I do it. We do it. This is you can't really tell, but that's a 6 foot by 6 foot basin that we grow sage in. And this is, I have a guy who's in his 60s, and all he does is, well, not all he does, but a lot of what he does is pots plants. And every single plant that he pots, he puts soil inside the pot because that's where they eat. That's the food. And then the plants go in with the food, and then they grow. And then that's Starogen S. rippens for the kids on the street, Staro rippens, and that's got roots, and that's a hard-to-root plant. But plants eat 400 to 400 times more nutrients through their roots than through their stems and leaves. We're going to make a cake, okay? That last slide, you get your phone back out. This is what you got to take a picture of. This is important. This is chocolate cake. It's how we make it in Kentucky. Grandma or Nana will make you some cake. And what do you need? You need 3/4 cups of butter, margarine, eggs, flour. This is what you need to make a cake. This is the nutrients in your aquarium. This is what you need. These are the nutrients, right? The light, you put all that stuff in a cake mix, right? But you can't just leave it in the bowl. Okay? So you get all these nutrients in your tank, right? All these right here, you get it? And then it goes back to all these nutrients. You got nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, carbon. You guys can read. I will not insult your intelligence. Zinc, and you get all into this. And then what? You need good lights because the light is the oven that bakes the cake, okay? I put a stupid cake in my PowerPoint, all right? The lights are so important. You have to have good lighting, and you have to have all these crazy nutrients available to your plants, but the plants will not eat if you do not have good lights, okay? Good lighting. You've got to get good lights. Feed your plants where they eat. Feed them what they eat. We do have some growth juice. If you're not into the whole dirt, we have our own fertilizer. It's our multi-fert. We do quite well. We have it back at the booth. But yeah, we feed all of our plants this because we don't have dirt in all of our tanks. I want to talk quickly about filtration. Planet Tank's pretty easy. Shout out to Fluval for throwing it down at this show, by the way. And they make some great canister filters. I had a dude at the old Just Fish literally give me one. He's like, dude, I don't want your first experience to be a bad one. And he gave me a Fluval. Hang-on backs are good. Sponges. Is there anybody in here with an undergravel filter? God bless you. Keep it strong for the rest of us in the back. The only reason I'm dissing on the undergravel filters is because technology's come on. The canister filters have gotten better, and things are getting easier. I would say not to use undergravel filter, but there are dudes with underwear older than me keeping undergravel filters and growing the heck out of plants. So if you are doing that, good for you. Keep it rolling. Aeration quickly. You want to run an air stone. You want that stuff breathing. You want your tank. You want like oxygen exchange. You want gas exchange. You want to get the bad gases out. You want gas exchange. Air stones do not reduce carbon dioxide in your aquarium, okay? You can run them both together. I do. CO2 and air stones together. I had a couple of times in the old tank I showed at the beginning of this, I had dead cory cats, and I figured out it was because I did not have enough gas exchange, and I was getting some bad gas at the bottom. So air stones, blow it out, get it going. So that would be my recommendations with just always run a little air stone. And then timetable is important. Cycle time, unlike with fish, plants can go in right away. They don't care. We get in, 10,000 plants at a time. We put them in fresh, clean basins. They don't need the nitrogen cycle. They speed it up. So when you're trying to put your fish in, put a crap load of plants in there, and then that will speed up everything, okay? The little stuff will die off. Plants eat nitrate, like the whole deal. Plants speed up the cycle, opposite of fish. Light time, I've been 6 degrees from the equator in Peru twice. Don't run your lights 12 hours a day, okay? Cut it back. You can go, start at 6. It's my baseline. Start at 6. You can always go more, but start there. Filter time. This is important if anybody has a power outage. The beneficial bacteria takes time to build in your filter. So if you ever have a power outage and it's off for more than like 2 hours, unplug your filter. You don't want it to turn back on and dump all that bad, now dead bacteria into your aquarium. That's going to be a problem. So you just dump it out, put your tank water back in there, but do not let the bacteria die in your filter and then come back on. Plant adjustment time, give it 2 weeks. Let them settle. They're not like animal, you know what I mean? Like you get a new dog, it takes like a month, right? Like you got to let them settle in, let them adjust. Your tanks aren't the same as my tanks, aren't the same as so-and-so's tanks. Like it takes time for them to kind of like settle in and get moving. Maintenance, water changes, folks. Chicago water's great. I don't want to hear anybody talking about hard water being bad. Hard water's fantastic. It's got high calcium content, high minerals, that sort of thing. Trimming plants, trim the heck out of them. I can get into specifics after the answer is over. But again, what would Mother Nature do, right? That's what Mother Nature looks like. These are your best friends, and they go back to Mother Nature. Water changes, like I said, reduce lighting. Not feeding. You don't need to feed your fish every day, believe it or not. And your tank will probably be a little easier with that without those big, dumping in all kinds of foods. And then consistency, your lights are on a timer. You're running them 6 hours a day. You're feeding decently. Floating plants help with algae. Anybody got algae? Come on, I grow algae like a pro. So the floating plants, algae. What kind of algae you got? But nobody wants to admit that stuff, right? All right. But you got algae, so I'll just talk about it real quick because let them get going. The algae, right? Floating plants absorb the excess nutrients and they breathe from the top, so they're going to do more work. They're going to work harder for you. They're floating at the top. They're going to absorb more readily available CO2 from the atmosphere, and then they're also going to block out light, and they'll starve out other stuff with algae. So floating plants help great with that. Water flow helps great with algae. And then I wish I had a great slide of this, but your plants versus fish load. Everybody wants like 1 inch of fish per gallon of water. This is the rule that I live by. You want 1 foot, my arm, of plants per like 1 inch of fish. You think about like a lake, right? The lake is like full of plants, just stocked full, and then you got like the little sunfish and all that, but it's loaded with plants. So the more plants you have, the bigger your plants to fish ratio is, the more ridiculous amount of plants you have, the better off and the easier it's going to be to grow. Anybody got like a stacked full planted tank? Like I'm talking like straight up, like this thing is full. Like you would, yeah. Like, and how is it easy to keep fish in that tank? Yeah, it's a joke. No algae, right? No algae. Stacked full tank, right? Just fill it up. Get it full of plants. Now I'm a plant feeding at the roots, so I am going to say get your plants enough to eat, where they eat, what they eat, and do the dirt thing because that'll get you ridiculous plant growth, but that makes everything easier with your fish. No algae, easier on the fish. And I want to I want to end with this. Dude, this is Fiona 2, the single most opposite person of me, a very quiet, small woman from Taiwan versus like loud American Dustin. And she and I are friends. And I walked into her shop in Bellevue, and I was like, oh my God, when I saw that tank. Like, it was in the back, and I was just like, what is that? And Fiona will out aquascape all of you, and she was trained by Takashi Amano, and she probably trims that thing like every day. Ain't nobody got time for that, right? Like, nobody has time for that, okay? Like, so like, my favorite tank right now is a 4 foot by 8 foot Sag Factory with white guppies. I love it. I eat my lunch there. I stare at those baby guppies. They stare at me like we're buddies. You know, I like it. It's my favorite setup, and it's got algae in the bottom of it, and a bunch of dwarf sag, and a ridiculous amount of guppies that I bought from a bunch of creepy old dudes at the Louisville convention, and I love that. You know those people I'm talking about, and so you're gonna see some great tanks. George Farmer, Hip at Altum, you know, all those football tanks are so fat, and I want you to go, and I want you to get inspired, but I don't want any of you to be intimidated or think like, I don't want to do that. You need to do you. You need to do your aquariums. If you got pink gravel and the shell that flips up with the bubbles and that makes you happy, tear it up. Get the heck away from me, but rock it out. Like that's it. You got to do what makes you happy in your aquarium. Do your tanks, and tank on. Thanks for being here. Anybody want freestyle with questions? I never get to do this until they kick me off. What's up, Stacy in the front?
Remember my name? I know your name. I want to know like what kind of dirt you would recommend. Like,
well, you could go to dustinsfishtanks.com and buy the Dustin Dirt Packs, or you can go get Miracle Grow Organic Choice at Lowe's, Home Depot. Rinse it, spread it out, spray it out, lay it out, and then let it grow in the sun. Sun's leaving, and then dry it, rinse it, dry it. From your yard, you can, but you want to bake it. And well, who questions? Let's do it. What's up? What you got? We're gonna help me out with this mic thing.
So, I'm confused on your lighting. You said lighting, but yet only like 6 hours. So you saying quality lighting for a short?
Yeah. Great question. So you want to have, his question was, and anybody didn't hear it, he goes, I'm confused on lighting, dude, because you're telling me get great light. And then, but why are you only going to run at 6? And the reason you're only going to run it at 6 is because Mr. Algae is around. And he's lurking in the shadows, and he's like, I'm going to get you, bro. And then if you run that for 12 hours without, you know what I mean? Like if you get lights from me or whatever, like your tank is not ready for that. No, it's like, so then you're going to go and you're going to get punched with all this light, and you have excess nutrients, and you might get algae. But if you start at 6, and you're cool, and you go to 7. And then you go to 8. You know what I mean? But everything is a gradual thing. You don't want to just like go from a tank that's nothing and all of a sudden, boom, and you know your plants will get bigger, and then they can take more. Good question. Who else? What up? This is fun. Everybody emails me stuff. I'm going to you in the back.
So when you do a dirted tank, how long does it last?
Here we go. Now, how it works is this. How long does a car last? I beat the crap out of cars. You guys shocked to hear that? You're shocked? You should see the van I drove here in. How long does a car last, right? You take care of your car, you know, you change the oil, thing lasts 200,000 miles, right? You run a high-tech, high CO2, heavy root feeding, like dirt tank. That tank I showed in the beginning, I don't know if you were here, because some of you all were late. That tank lasted, and I burn it, right? Like I beat on it. CO2, highlight, the whole deal lasted for 5 years. You got a tank that's just like a little bit of jungle vow, one crappy light, could last a very, very long time. I will leave you with this. How long it lasts doesn't matter because the amount of reward that a dirted tank is going to give you in the growth far exceeds the amount of work you're going to have to do to rip it out. Anybody got a dirted tank with that? Anybody say amen to that? Like a dirted, yeah, let's up. Who else? Questions? Let's do it. Yes, you.
how do you feel about the 24-hour light cycle lights that do like from the day to night?
You didn't just hear the last question the dude asked about the 6 hours? All right. She wasn't paying attention. 24-hour light cycle. I start at 6 hours, Work our way up. Anybody paying attention in here that wants to ask a question? 6 hours, ma'am. You in the back.
You were talking about with the benefits of clay. I mean, aside from adding that right out of my yard, what would you recommend for that?
Yeah, go get. His question, if anybody didn't hear it, was you recommend adding clay. Go to a pottery place, buy some red clay, negatively binding. Clay is a negative thing, and the negative ions pull all the metals, the iron, all that stuff down to where your roots eat. So clay iron binding abilities are top notch. What up? A macro, something like that. Yeah, clay, the clay that you would give to a kid in 3rd grade or whatever. Don't eat it. What's up?
So like all my tanks are a UNS stratum substrate. How would I add clay to that?
All right. I don't know about UNS stratum. Those are good people, though. I would just say get yourself, how big is it? The tank. 10 and a 20. So just get like, for freestyle numbers, man, like everything's different. For every 10 pounds of substrate you got, get like half a pound. For a 20-gallon, you would use a pound of clay, iron binding. Anybody else got questions? See, I can answer them. I don't have to like type it or anything.
Are Madagascar lace still really difficult to keep?
Aponjagitan madagascariensis. Are Madagascar lace still hard to keep? They were never hard to keep. But here's the deal. They're hard to get. As a dude who sells plants for a living, let me tell you. I happen to have some back there. I don't know if you saw that. Dusty's got those. I got helicanensis, and you walked right into that one, ma'am. I'm sorry. I do. They're beautiful. There may not even be left. You should just go now, and I'll tell you. So yeah, no, they're not hard to keep. The problem is they have they have a die period. They have a period where they just shut down. They have a dormant period. And I've never worked them through the dormant period, so I don't know anything about, like, I hear you're supposed to, like, set them off to the side or whatever, but they might have a dormant period. Madagascar lace plants are not hard to keep. They're apongitons, and don't sleep on the rest of the Aponogeton family. Like, there's Longipumilosis, Boivinianus. All those are really dope plants. So, not hard to keep. Try it again. Back corner, opposite way. All right, you really want to go back-to-back with the questions? This guy wants to go right after.
He didn't pay me to say this, but I met Dustin at Aquashella and I own a store. I wouldn't buy plants from anybody else but him because the stuff is top notch.
Never mind, I busted the dude's balls right before he said that. What a jerk. Thank you for saying that. That's awesome. Who else? Come on, let's do this. This is fun. For real, like, I'm having a riot doing this, and then when they kick me off, you tell me when to stop, I'm going to keep going. What up?
So expanding on this gentleman's question, you said 5 years. That's so because of
God. Yeah, nutrient deplete. All right, how long's the wife's car gonna last versus mine? You know, like, how bright are your lights? If your plants are growing like crazy and you're pulling the plants out every week because your tank is growing like crazy, those plants are eating like crazy and your substrate is gonna deplete and eventually less. If it's just in low mode and you got a single strip fluorescent and it's not growing that much, it will. Don't overthink it. 5 years? Every single one of you probably moves the tank more than every 5 years. Like, try it. Get a 10-gallon. Dump it. What up?
Would you recommend adding charcoal to a dirted?
You can put your hand down now.
Would you recommend adding charcoal to a dirted tank?
I don't run any charcoal or carbon at all. I don't do any of that, no. I would run some crushed coral, though, if you're into that. What else? Crushed coral has the high calcium, puts a little bit more of that into the water column. I'm going to walk. Here, no, we can do this. Sorry. Halfway. What up?
What are your opinion on, like, those Marimol mouse balls? I can never keep them.
You can never keep them, and you're never going to get them again because the United States Department of Agriculture has found zebra mussels on them. You have zebra mussels in Lake Michigan. If you can never, I haven't kept them in a long time, to be real with you, but I think a little bit harder water. I don't think they like water flow. Anybody keeping moss balls can give a better answer than that? They like no water flow. That's what he says. Good, yeah, but that's a hard plant to get for yours truly because USDA will be like, oh, you have moss balls? Excellent. We're opening every box. We're going to pick apart all your plants. It's horrible. It's horrible. So Dustin's not selling moss balls. What up?
So this is kind of like a business question, but how do you determine that you're like ready to quit your job and?
Oh, you want the woo-woo stuff. You ready? His question was, how do you know when you're ready to quit your job and go? You just go for it, dude. You get excited. You get some money started. You start making money, and you just close your eyes and you just, and it's scary as hell. And here's the best part. You go through what's period called the dip, where you're up here and you're like, I got this new business. This is going to be so great. I'm going to quit my job. And then you like go and you're like, this is hard. This kind of sucks. And then you're down here and you're like, man, I had this sweet greenhouse and now I'm crying on YouTube videos and it's really horrible. And it's miserable. And you're like, I like really don't like this. This is really hard. And it would just be easier to sell phones in Lexington, Kentucky than it would be to like make a living selling aquarium plants. And then you're like, no, screw that, man. I'm going to tear this up. And then you buy land in Nicholasville and you get away from the lady and you go and you build your own greenhouse and you build what you want. And the CEO of Twitter said it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. So if you're going to quit and do something, you got 10 years. 10 years. I've been in this Chicago for 9. So it takes 10 years to get to that. So you see all the fancy greenhouse and all that stuff, it took a decade and a ridiculous amount of personal debt and sacrificing and editing videos while my kids are little babies saying, hey, Dad, you want to play? And I'm like, I got to get to video by 11 on Sunday. Sorry, honey. And it's hard. But it's the most rewarding thing you'll ever do in your entire life. But it's going to really be hard. Let's go back to plants. Thank you for asking that, though. What's up? Who else has got plant questions? I'll answer any question, though. Anyone? Anyone? Oh, we got one. Mask coming off. What's up?
What's your favorite color spectrum for running lights like?
It's both. You can't pick. You got to get both. You got to get the peaks and the. Did you see the shot? The graph? You need to see it again? You can't ask favorites, man. It's the whole sun, Mother Nature. What they give you everything. You go to the beach, you feel the sun on your skin. You want all of it. I like peaks in the reds and the blues, but plants will take a little ultraviolet infrared. Good question. Everybody got that graph? That's very important. Anybody else questions? Let's go. This is fun. Yeah, what's up? Oh, my God. God. Third, soil. This is the last substrate question. Do you do anything to supplement the soil? You shove clay down in it if you think you're getting low. You watch the plants. You watch the plants. When the plants get low, then you start readjusting the soil. Sir, you need to set up a dirty tank. Who else has questions? Plant questions? Nobody's really asked about specific species. I can talk about legit species all day. Oh, here we go. What's up?
I can do other carpeted plants, but dwarf hairgrass is like my downfall.
Were you late? All right, cool. You sure? All right, he was here on time, so because I did talk about this. So you have a super hard time growing dwarf hairgrass. I'm going to talk about dwarf baby tears, equally as hard. Dwarf baby tears is called Hemianthus cuba. You got to imitate conditions in Cuba, okay? Now, dwarf hairgrass, Eleocharis parvulus, short guy. That stuff grows in South Carolina native down by the Georgia line. So you got to hit that sunlight. You got to bright lights because that's where that stuff grows. And it grows in this much water. So my chances are you're probably got a really deep tank. So good question. Bright lights, good nutrients. Come see me in the back corner. I got it.
Okay, sometimes I kill anubis plants trying to split them. Where do I cut that?
Oh, you shouldn't admit to that, Stacy. Stacy in the front killing Anubias. You don't. You want to. You broke Anubias and it died. Break it where it needs to be broken. That you follow the lines and break it. Alex is about to be up. When's the next speaker? You're right now. I'm done, dude. My bad. Hey, thanks everybody. It was fun. What? How many more? Oh, I got 15 more? I mean, I'll keep it. I never get to do this. Anybody else got questions? I got 15 minutes. I saw him holding a laptop looking at me like, anything besides Flourish XL, it's actually a glue. Red color, no, red color is your spectral composition of your lights. What up? You got a question, go.
My Java fern always turns brown.
All right, get out. It's time for you to go. You got to go. No, Java fern turns brown. Listen, it happens, right? Like, I got plants that don't know. I would guess your calcium levels are off a little bit, something like that. That would be my guess, but that's like, I'll give you a slice back there if you didn't already grab some, but like, that's an easy one. Don't say that too loud in the future. What else? CO2 or not CO2? The answer is CO2 if you got it. I'm going to go back here, and I got you, all right? Well, now you're sitting down? Hold on. What's your question?
What's your favorite plant to grow?
What's my favorite plant to grow? For aquariums? Oh, man. It's like picking kids, you know? I got a favorite kid. I'm just kidding. What's my favorite plant? So I got a real thing. So part of the deal and the woo-woo stuff the kid was asking about for starting your own job, part of the thing is I wake up in the morning and I say, if I could have any job in the world, what would it be? I have the perfect job for me. It's like a mantra thing, and I recommend any of you that want to hear more about self-motivation, you should get one of those. And one of them is like, I have the perfect job for me. What is it? So bringing in cool plants from other countries is really like exciting to me. Like I'm kid at Christmas opening it up. So I've got a plant called Anubias gigantea that I get from Mr. Macinta, Guinea. And I get it from a dude who's from Africa, and it's hardcore. And I'll send him money, and he'll be like, Mr. Dustin, they eat the money. I'm like, what's eat the money mean, buddy? Like, does that mean like they ate your money, or is it my money, or whose money did they eat? And he's like, they eat the money. I don't have the plants. And I'm like, well, I need you to get those plants because I gave you several $1,000s. And I send him more money. And he's like, oh, Mr. Dustin, I send you plants. And he sends me plants, and it's like the craziest triangle leaf Anubias that's like this big leaves that are all triangles. Not the round stuff like the barter eye, but triangles. Anubias gigantea is up there. I like crenum a lot. Madagascar lace plants I've been hot on. Hygrophila compacts. I'm real proud of our Starro. You know, it's like picking kids. You over here had a question.
Do you find that proper fertilization prevents the node roots that you get on big stem plants?
Do you find that proper fertilization present the node roots that you get on stem plants in the substrate? No, I don't. I've had Ludwigia grow up with the big long roots off the side. I think plants just kind of want to do their thing and gonna go. That's a good question, though. What's up?
I was late, so I'm sorry if you covered it, but how to prevent melting?
Melting? Your plants are going to adjust to whatever's going on. That's hard. Do you have a question? What's up? It's an adjustment period, 2 weeks' time. But if they come from low light and you put them in high light, they're going to stunt, and the new leaves are going to come out ready to grow based on the conditions that they're in.
I grow plants great, but I just can't. My Anubias is always melting at the...
Your Anubias is melting at the rhizome. How deep are you keeping the Anubias in the substrate, sir? It's not at the substrate? Okay. Sometimes you tie it too tight. Sometimes Anubias rot happens. High calcium levels. Anubias loves high GH and KH. Don't ask me the numbers. I don't have the top of my head. Raise your KH and GH. That can be done with crushed coral. Dolomite, crushed coral. 1 pound per 20 gallons. Start there. Get your water milky and chalky and looks like white cloudy. That will get your calcium levels high. I personally take big chunks of rocks and I beat them and break them and smash them and mash them, and I put them in 8-foot basins of Anubias. And you should see the barter eye we got. What else? Who else?
In your opinion, what carpeting plant is best if you don't have CO2?
Here comes the response. Were you early? Did you watch the whole thing? All right, these freaking late kids. I swear to God. Where's your parents? I'm kidding. So yeah, dude, don't be late. I already talked about this. What's your substrate? All right, now, boy. Yeah, you walked into the wrong question with that, dude. So the kid in the back that was late, that dude that was late, I missed it, the whole thing. So he asked, what carpeting plants, sorry, I got lost in the whole late thing. What carpeting plants don't grow good in sand, or, you got it all wrong, CO2. CO2, sand, all right. Forget the CO2 for a second, okay? I'm gonna get to that. Your plants are in sand. You go to the beach, there's no plants growing in the sand because there's no nutrients. There's nothing for them to eat. So get something to feed your plants at the nutrient base, because the plants you want, the carpeting foreground plants you want, grow on the edge of rivers in like this much muck, in this much light, okay? CO2 would be great, but you can run all CO2 in the world if you don't have a way to feed those plants. So that sand substrate, do something to get nutrients to the roots of those plants that are struggling. Mr. Late with the hat. Love you, dude. Who else? What up?
What is your go-to fish to pop against plants?
Go-to fish? What depends on the plant. What plant? Go-to fish to pop against plants. I mean, here, ready? Do your tanks. What fish do you think pops in the tank? I like rainbows. I do. They're beautiful. Some kid that didn't know what he was doing at Petco sold me a bunch of rainbows, and I got like, they ate all the mosquitoes and they multiplied. Rainbows are underappreciated. They look like crap in a pet store, but they look amazing in a planted aquarium, and they get big, and you got to have 1-to-1 male to female ratios. Just like in the real world, the boys color up for the girls. So I do recommend rainbows. Anybody rocking a school of fish? Anybody have more than 50 of one type of fish in here? You should. All right, you should, because a big giant school of fish is hot. One of the hottest tanks I ever had was a 40 tall, and it had like 50 neons in it, and all these idiots I went to college with, is that salt, dude? That's salt. You should get a shark, bro. Bro, you should get a shark. Dude, get a shark. Who else got questions? What up? If you say I should get a shark, we're gonna. A shark. Does anybody ever say that to you? You can punch them. Punch them if they say that. You should get a shark, man.
I've had a lot of success with my Madagascar laces, and I heard it's because I grow them with the crypts. Do you know any other plants?
Good question, or good comment. She says he's had pretty good growth with Madagascar lace plants and crypts. So you're doing it good. I don't see the connection between crypts, which come from Southeast Asia, and a plant from East Africa island. So I don't have an answer for you on that. I don't know what your substrate is, but what you're kind of driving at is something called allelopathy, which is like plant wars. Like, I can't keep jungle val and crenum together. Isn't that funny? Because they have this, like, they put off something and they fight. Don't ever overthink that, though. Try everything. Nah, I don't know. It depends on the one. What's up?
So if most of the nutrients come from the substrate, is it useless to be putting additives like iron in the water?
No, because some plants do. Good question. She's like, as if it's all in there. Like a water column, you're going to have water column feeding plants. Like Anubias, legit. All right, Anubias is more of a water column feeder, but we still put like the roots of it down in a little bit of soil. But yeah, if you're gonna feed plants, keep feeding them. Feed them until you get algae, then cut it back. Who else? What up? Next questions. Now. Cool. Alex is up. Alex Winchell in the house. You got a question? You can't ask a question. You're a speaker, dude. I'm nervous about your question. Crap. Let's end with a hard one.
Did you talk about the relationship between the temperature of the water and plants? Like,
No. Good.
talk about discus fish and
Oh, I can. My name is Dustin, and I've killed a lot of plants. Lots. Like more than all of you put together. I've killed a lot of plants. And you get like crazy temp swings in a greenhouse, right? Because it's like greenhouse is hot, and then like, so during the day it heats up, and then at night the temp drops. Tap it out at 80 degrees for me, generally speaking, on any type of plant. You want to go into discus, you want to try like an Amazon sword, or there's some others. Dwarf sage would try it, Val would meld and come back. But I top out at about 80. That's the rub with discus. So for me, discus are a problem. Has anyone seen the I Hate Discus video where I talk about discus? All right, cool. Like I just hate on those fish for like 15 minutes straight. And I got 15 minutes left, so here it comes. No, so discus, the problem with discus in my having never kept a discus opinion, see how it's getting, from what I hear on the streets, is that they like hot water, right? Discus people, hot water. And hot water and my plants don't mix. Discus generally, and I'm sure they're captive bred now, and it's not as big of a deal, but I heard they do come from lower pH, and lower pH is generally not good for plants. That is I've never kept a discus opinion on that. Now, perfect temp for plants, I don't know, 70, 80 degrees. There is a plant growth velocity will increase with higher temps up to a certain point. You get over 80 and your plants are not going to grow as fast. In summertime, in August, in Nicholasville, Kentucky, I can grow anything. Like anything. Like it's full sun, it's hot, it's 78 degrees, I'm running water, I'm like splashing around like a mermaid with water everywhere, and it's great. Winter comes, daylight shrinks, temps drop, a lot colder, different ball game. So play with that, but your RPM is topping out at around 80 degrees in my opinion with that. Any other questions? That was a good one, Alex. What up?
Would like super high alkaline water be good then?
Higher alkaline water, all right. Okay. Wish I had the money. I did a video on this on Instagram. So pH is a scale where it's like a pH is 7 and a pH is 8 is 10 times more. So you don't want to go too high on that. You want to stay low on that. Like 7, 8, whatever, something like that. So, all right, cool. This was a heck of a good time. Thank you, everybody, for the questions. Even you that came in late. Love you all, Chicago. It'll be 10 years next year. We're going to celebrate our 10-year anniversary together.